Welcome to this deep dive. We try to take complex info and, well, make it easier to grasp quickly.
That's the idea.
And today, we're looking into something called the Nigerian ecosystem.
Right.
We've got excerpts from their own introductory podcast material.
Yeah, their own words.
So our mission really is just to understand what this movement is actually about. Their core ideas, goals, how they plan to do things straight from them.
Exactly. We're basically looking at how they introduce themselves, their foundational message. It's quite revealing, I think, to see how a movement frames itself right at the start.
Okay, so they kick things off pretty strongly. They say, "Welcome to the ecosystem. This is not a trend. This is not a party. This is the beginning of structure." That word ecosystem, it feels loaded, doesn't it? And then immediately pairing it with structure, that seems, well, really key to who they say they are.
It does, yeah. An ecosystem implies, interconnectedness, parts working together, maybe organically. But adding structure right away suggests something deliberate, organized. Not just random growth, but building something solid. Something lasting, maybe?
Yeah, not just a moment, like they say.
Exactly.
Then they describe themselves as a people-powered broadcast from the front lines of truth. Big words. And their aims are justice, structure, and national transformation. Quite the trio.
It is. And the method they propose.
Yeah, they say, no politics, no noise, just truth, clarity, and coordinated civic power.
That no politics part always jumps out, doesn't it? Especially when you're talking national transformation.
It does. How do you achieve national transformation without politics? Or maybe they mean party politics.
Perhaps. Maybe they're trying to position themselves above the daily squabbles, focusing on principles they see as fundamental truth, justice.
Like universal needs.
Something like that. Or maybe trying to appeal across the usual divides. But you're right. Any big change inevitably bumps up against the political system. It's an interesting line to walk.
Then there's a clear call to action. Learn, build, act.
Simple, direct.
And the tagline ties together, where vision becomes structure. Again with structure.
Yeah, it constantly comes back to that. It reinforces this idea of practical steps, not just dreaming, but actually making things happen, building systems.
Okay, so let's dig into the why. Their core motivations. They're very clear, they're independent.
Right. They state they're not funded by politicians or oligarchs.
Which is a big claim. And instead of asking for cash, they ask for integrity and courage.
Which shifts the focus, doesn't it? It becomes about values, about personal commitment, not just donations.
Yeah, it feels like they're trying to build trust that way, maybe. Avoiding any hint of being, bought or influenced.
That seems likely. It's a strategic move, especially in contexts where funding sources are often questioned. Asking for integrity, for courage, it's asking for a different kind of buy-in.
So they call themselves digital first, people powered, aiming to unite Nigerians globally.
Around those three words again.
Truth, justice, structure.
Yep.
And they see themselves as this structured citizens network rising to reclaim the future.
A network. Rising. Strong imagery.
And they double down. We don't play politics. We don't chase clout. We build.
The digital first part is obviously very modern. It shows they understand what people connect, organize now.
Absolutely. Online is central.
And repeating truth, justice, structure, it's like a mantra, hammering home their core message. Rejecting politics and clout chasing reinforces this image of being serious, focused on, building tangible results.
But what does building actually look like? What are they doing? They list 5 specific things they say make them different.
Okay.
Tackling fake news with a truth hub.
Relevant.
Developing future leaders via Leadership Reset.
Investing in people.
Connecting Nigerians abroad through diaspora mobilization.
Leveraging that global network.
Tracking government promises with digital governance tools.
Accountability focus there.
And fostering economic strength with an economic solidarity network.
Wow, okay. That's quite a broad range of activities.
It really is. Tackling information, leadership, diaspora, governance, and economics.
Yeah.
It feels ambitious.
Very ambitious. It suggests a kind of holistic approach, addressing problems on multiple fronts at once. Yeah. But it also makes you wonder, about the resources, the coordination needed to actually pull all that off effectively.
True. They do say, though, every initiative is backed by coordination, technology, and you. The you being the listener, the people.
Right. Bringing it back to the people-powered idea. And technology as the tool.
And they conclude that section saying, this is not noise, this is design.
Very deliberate language. They're emphasizing planning, strategy, not just random actions, but a thought-out system.
Okay, so now the why now. Why this urgency?
Right, the context they paint.
They say Nigeria is at a breaking point, that the truth is silenced, institutions are broken. It's a pretty sad picture.
It is. And framing things as a crisis, a critical moment, that's a classic way movements try to get people involved, right? Create that sense of urgency, that need for action now.
But they don't just leave it at the problems. They offer a counter. Chaos is not destiny.
A hopeful note.
And they emphasize structure over emotion, systems over saviors. Again, back to their core themes.
Resisting easy answers or relying on one charismatic leader, perhaps? Focusing on the long-term build.
And then this statement. The ecosystem was built for such a time as this. Like they were prepared for this moment.
Positioning themselves as the necessary solution.
And they speak right to the listener. If you're hearing this, you're part of the answer. That's quite direct, quite loving.
Effective, yeah. It pulls you in, makes you feel like you have a stake, a role to play. It creates that sense of shared responsibility. Offering structure as the antidote to chaos gives a path forward.
So how do you get involved? What does being in the ecosystem actually mean, according to them?
What are the benefits, yeah?
They list a few things. Having a voice that counts. Access to trusted civic intel.
Information access, important.
Mentorship and leadership pipelines.
Opportunities for growth.
And global community connections.
So, voice, information, development, and community, those seem like pretty solid draws, appealing to different needs.
Yeah, different motivations for joining. And they stress again, you don't need a political godfather. You don't need money. You need conviction.
Reinforcing that values-driven, accessible idea, lowering the barrier to entry, focusing on belief, not status or wealth.
Makes sense if you want a broad base. The actual joining process. Sounds simple. Tap the link in this podcast description and complete the opt-in form.
Straightforward call to action. Easy first step.
And they describe what happens when you join, stepping into a new space.
Yeah.
A space of structure, professional belonging, of calibrated mindset support, and connecting with others who think alike.
Professional belonging, mindset support, that suggests something more than just activism, maybe personal development too.
Could be. Then they use this really vivid analogy. It's time to remove yourself from the chicken barn and soar with the eagles.
Wow, okay. That's memorable.
Definitely paints a picture. This isn't noise, this is your next level.
Very aspirational. Contrasting confinement with freedom, limitation with soaring potential. It's designed to resonate, clearly, with people feeling stuck or wanting more. Your next level.
And they give the website, nigerianecosystem.com, and mention the opt-to-inform link again.
Can't miss it.
So if we wrap up what we've gathered just from their intro, the Nigerian ecosystem positioned itself as, well, a people-powered movement, focused squarely on truth, justice, structure, using digital tools, specific initiatives.
Across quite a few areas.
Right, and aiming for big national change while trying to bypass traditional politics and power brokers.
Yeah, the emphasis is very much on coordinated citizen action structure and using technology to make it happen. It's presented as a serious, organized effort.
It really does sound like they're pushing the idea of action, of building something new together.
Less talk, more structure.
That seems to be the core message. Proactive, organized, citizen-led. A modern approach, maybe, to tackling deep-seated challenges.
Their final calls to action are just as direct. Stand for truth, learn, build, act.
All the key verbs.
Register at nigerianecosystem.com. And they leave you with this thought. Nigeria begins again with you.
Putting the power and maybe the responsibility back on the individual listener.
Yeah, and then the practicals. Subscribe, share, take action. And if you haven't already, register now at ecosystem.ngregister.
Covering all the bases for engagement.
It really finishes on that note of collective effort, that final line.
Stand up, be counted, and let's build together.
Yeah, it sums up their whole pitch, really. Unity, action building.
Definitely leaves you with something to think about. How it translates from vision to reality, that's the ongoing question, I suppose.
Absolutely. Well, that was an interesting dive into their own framing. Thanks for unpacking that with me. My pleasure. Always interesting to see how these things are presented.